Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm Mohit Davar. I'm the chairman of IAMTN. Gives me great pleasure to welcome Alberto Guerra, CEO of Uniteller Financial Services, which is part of Banorte Group. And I should add that you're also head of global remittances at the whole group, which is great. Alberto, how are you? Welcome.
Good, thank you, Mohit. Thank you for having me, and doing well, and excited for this interview, and yeah, get to talk a little bit about what we're doing.
No, thank you so much. I'm glad that we managed to coordinate this with all the time zone differences and other challenges. And I would rather do this in person, face to face, but it looks like this is the world of Zoom that we live in, right? So.
Yeah, no, me too. Hopefully we can do a follow-up in London or Dubai or somewhere else later on. Or here in the US, why not?
Or here in the US, once Mr. Biden allows us to come there, but hopefully soon. Well, Alberto, that's great. I would love to, I know we've had a few chats, but I would love to sort of, if you could take us briefly through, just background, education, sort of family, I mean, just to sort of get to the point, almost sort of prior to Banorte, just so, it's about understanding you as the individual. Would love to hear about that.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, I was born and raised in Mexico, in northern Mexico, in the city of Monclova was where I was born and grew up. And it's a steel city. So my dad worked at a major steel factory. But I never liked the industry type of engineering type of work. So I always said myself that, I want to be in finance. I want to be in economics. So when I went to college, in Monterrey, Mexico, which is Mexico's third largest city. It's only a couple of hours drive from my hometown. So I went there to the Monterrey Institute of Technology to study economics. I got a degree in economics. When I finished my degree, was looking into job opportunities and talking to my dad. And unfortunately, back then, I was not getting the opportunities that I was hoping for. And my dad said, there's no rush. Why don't you go out and, I'll help you out and get a master degree. And so I took him on his word, and I applied, and I went to the US to Florida, to the University of Florida to get a master's degree in economics. While I was studying in Florida, everybody, all my professors, my classmates were telling me, why don't you go and get a PhD in economics? And I was like, once you start getting deep into economics, you're like, oh, no, I mean, like, this is not for me. So I went to see my graduate advisors, talking to her. She told me, why don't you, before making a decision into getting a PhD, why don't you take, within your master's, you have to take some electives. Why don't you do electives from the MBA track and see, what you can do. And once you take a few electives, you can make a decision as to what you want to do. So I took some electives from the MBA track. And I took finance, I took international business, and I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. So I end up getting my master degree and taking a lot of business classes as well. So I came back to Mexico, and obviously holding a master degree from the US helps a lot. And I got a position at the International Banking Group unit of Banorte. Banorte back then was a small regional bank, headquartered in Monterrey. And the good thing about being in a small bank was that you did a lot of things. I mean, you went into international banking, but I got experience in international treasury, international trading, foreign trade, ECA financing, the Exim Banks type of facilities, letters of credit, so payments. So I did a lot of things. Back then, Banorte did not have a remittance business, although we were exploring the possibility of getting into the business. Then I got an opportunity at the corporate banking group. They were about to create a new unit within the group as the bank continued to grow and become more relevant in the space. Well, now it's the second largest bank in Mexico. It's an amazing success story, that of Banorte in Mexico. From, I think it was the 16th when I came in, and now it's the second largest.
Wow.
And it's very interesting. I'm going to deviate a little bit, but in one of the strategic meetings that we had, I remember hearing, probably 2 years into after I got into Banorte, the president of the board of the group, he said a mission statement of that he wanted to see and take Banorte to be the top 4. And we all looked at each other and say, wow, from 16 to top 4, it's going to take some time. And here we are, number 2. So it's an amazing story. But going back into my career, I was invited to the corporate banking group. They were creating this new investment banking unit where the bank would enter into M&A, into operate transactions, into supporting corporate clients, into large project investments, acquisitions. So I joined that group, and I worked in that group for probably 5-6 years, and it was very interesting because I got to see another perspective, from a very high level. Okay, what are the projects? What are the investments? What are the rationale of companies that want to do acquisitions? Also, the group's rationale in doing certain acquisitions. So that was very interesting, and I think that helped me. I already had experience in international, so that gave me the experience more in the corporate strategic vision and finance. How to structure deals to make them happen. So I was very happy. I think my first interaction with remittances was that probably, I think it was 98, 99, when someone approached us with the opportunity. They were selling an MTO in the US. And they say, we really believe that Banorte should get into this business, and what a better way to get into the business than buying an MTO. So we did the analysis of that MTO. And back then, I think it was very early in the process. I think timing was not right, and probably the strategy of that particular MTO didn't really fit what Banorte was looking for. So we didn't take on that opportunity. But I think that was my first interaction with the industry, trying to understand, what are the value, what is the value chain and the value proposition of MTOs. So that helped a lot. And then in 2003, I was invited to lead the international banking group of Banorte. So I took the step back from corporate banking back to international. Banorte had acquired another bank, I think 1 or 2 years before that, called Bancrecer. And Bancrecer had a very active remittance business. So that's how Banorte got into remittances, due to the acquisition of Bancrecer. And one of the things when I got back to the international group was, we need to make a decision on remittances because we're doing them, but they're not growing. And, we got to make a decision. So when I got into the group, I started talking to the people that was doing remittances, and immediately understood, what Banorte needed to do, all the hassles and the issues whenever Banorte wanted to make a deal with a remittance company, that it took the bank 2-3 years to get that remittance company connected. When you wanted to go to legal to get the agreement, they didn't know anything about remittances. Compliance was, no, we don't want to do it. So it took our time to say, if we really want to do remittances, we got to do it right. So, we start pitching the idea of acquiring a company in the US that could help the group into getting into remittances, having that company as a gateway where all companies could connect to and have its own expertise in compliance, in legal. So we start making that pitch, and in 2004, 2005, the group had a broader strategy, and the group said, we want, back then there was a lot of noise and it was very trendy, the issue of the importance of the Hispanic Latino market in the US and how Mexican companies, or Mexican, in our case, Mexican banks or financial institutions could take advantage of that. So back then, Banorte set up a new group that they called Banorte US, that basically the idea of this group was to enter into acquisition opportunities, or look for acquisition opportunities to expand into the US. So I was invited to join that group. So I had to, at first I was doing this dual role of head of international and as a group member of the Banorte US group. And then eventually, as the project get going, I ended up committing full time into this new effort. And this new effort was looking for two acquisitions. One of them was a bank, a national charter bank, and the other one was a remittance company. So we ended up acquiring both institutions, a regional bank, national charter, but regional-based bank in Texas. And we acquired Uniteller as part of this effort. And why Uniteller? Because one of the things that we liked about Uniteller is back then it was a small company, but its founder and main shareholder used to be a banker. So we liked the way the company was organized, structured. It had a very comprehensive compliance and risk group. Also, he was very good in technology. So I think rather than us looking for a company that had a lot of coverage in terms of agents, what we were looking was more of a platform that we could leverage for doing our implementing our strategy. So that's how we came about finding Uniteller, acquiring Uniteller. And then after the acquisition of Uniteller, the group came and said, you know what? This is your deal, so why don't you go out and manage it? And I've been running Uniteller since 2007 when we're corporate. So it's been an interesting journey from international to corporate, back to international, and to remittances. So a great experience, and also taking advantage of the growth of the group as well in bringing everything together.
So it sounds like you asked the question, what do we do with remittances? You found a solution, and then they said, okay, you go and run it now, right? It was
Yes.
So the whole thing. But I'm curious, I mean, as a career banker, because you've really been through, right from starting at the bottom, working your way through various departments. Most bankers see remittances at the bottom end of the scale, right? When they look at the sort of banking spectrum. I mean, I'm curious as to, when you were given the opportunity to go run a remittance company effectively, and I know it's slightly different what you're doing, and we'll get onto it, but did you sort of embrace it, Alberto, or did you kind of think, no, this is a bit of a step down from my, I'm head of international, and now you're asking me to kind of run Uniteller? I'm curious as to how did you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, definitely there's always those ideas running into your head when I was first asked about running Uniteller. But I always like to see it long term. And what in my particular case, the vision that we had is, okay, we don't want to have Uniteller just be a remittance company. We want to make of Uniteller a payment hub. So for me, it was like, yeah, I mean, that's the vision. I'm gonna have the opportunity, the experience of running a company that it can be a major payment processor for cross-border transactions. So that was the vision that convinced me, or at least that no one told me that. They told me, you're gonna run the remittance company. And I was like, no. How is this gonna work for me in a way that is gonna be positive for my career? And yes, it took a while. I mean, even probably, I don't know, even 5 years ago, there are still people, saying, oh, Uniteller, the remittance company of Banorte. And I'm like, no, we're the fintech, the payment processor, the cross-border payment solution. So yeah, I mean, from that perspective, I immediately saw the opportunities. Also, looking at, what other companies are doing. In, back then in 2006 and 2007, you had the digital companies starting to take a good start. We had Zoom back then, and we were like, okay, these are things that we could also be doing. And what do we need to do in order to make our company more attractive, not only for the group, but also for us as employees, and building a team and convincing the team of this vision. I think that's what led me to stay focused in getting what we have achieved.
Great. I'm curious. I mean, obviously, we're digressing slightly, but I mean, given you're a banker, and you're still working within a bank, I'm curious as to how, what are your thoughts as to how the banks are currently seeing the MSP landscape? Because, we've really seen a complete 180 degrees in terms of de-risking that's been happening. Closing of accounts is a big issue. And even though, remittance companies can't function without banks, right? So they sort of go hand in hand. I'm curious as to, when you put on your banker hat versus your remittance hat, how do you see the other side, and what are your views as to how do we move this agenda forward?
Yeah, and it's a very interesting question, and it's also a very difficult job that we all in the industry need to continue doing in order to better position what we do. Because when you start talking about remittances, there's always these misconceptions about low value. And yes, but also when you start looking at to what really the industry has done and what we are doing to keep our institutions and the banks under which we work safe, I mean, it's just interesting that when you start having these conversations, they are all like, oh, we didn't know you do that, or we didn't know you had this. Oh, your compliance program is even stronger than what we do at the bank. So in our particular case at Banorte, I think it became very evident from the beginning that if Banorte was going to be into remittances, the better way of doing it was having Uniteller and having an company focus and with an expertise into the industry. So in order to keep the group doing things right. The other approach, what most banks do is like, we'll just don't do it, and we will cancel all of the accounts. But then guess what? You have your customers that have the need, connecting your accounts into remittance services. So, you have, these larger banks, whichever that country is, but here in the US, you have banks exiting the industry. And then what? You have the customer, opening an account or at one of these digital companies,
right,
to place a transaction. So you as a bank lost not only the value of understanding your customer and how you can build value around this transaction, but you completely ignore what he's doing now, but he's still using the account at your bank to place the transaction. So for me, it's just probably ignorance, probably cost benefit analysis from building the know-how and the expertise, right, and just letting that being taken care by other companies. So yeah, I mean, the conversation is always there. And in our case, I think we've done a very good job in convincing our group of all the things that we're doing. And also from a business perspective, all the value and the profile of the persons that are receiving remittances, how much they're receiving, when they open a bank account, how much are they saving, what are the balances, how those balances compare to the average balances of that branch. And then, doing that effort in convincing the bankers at these locations, hey, guess what? Your remittance customers are the most profitable because they keep higher balances. They have a stream of cash flow coming in. So what can you do to make the most of that relationship? So I think we've managed to build over the years a very positive relationship with the commercial banking group at Banorte in Mexico to help them understand the value of this business as well. And with the compliance and the risk areas of the group, I think there's a lot of communication. They understand very well what we do. And, but it takes time and effort. And right, I can understand why other institutions are not willing to get into that. In my opinion, it's a mistake, but the ones that are doing it and have done it, I think they're finding that this is, safe and attractive enough business to run.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen, like you have, over the last 25 years that I've been involved, banks have dipped in and out. I've always heard, we want to get into remittances, then it's like, no, we don't want to get into, and then, there's a cycle and then they do. And some have made a very successful attempt to, like Wells Fargo in the US, I mean, number of banks in the Middle East. But I think generally it's a customer base that they've shied away from. I guess more so, and you're a prime example, more so banks from the receive side seem to have more empathy, with offering these services. But if you looked at, US banks, other than Wells, I don't really know any other example. As UK, for sure, there was a huge de-risking led by Barclays and others. But yet, to your point, all the fintechs that have developed still use the same rails as the banks, because you can't move money without the banks, right? You still need the bank. So it's a very strange paradox in some ways, trying to solve this.
Yeah, you're right. It's interesting, but at the end of the day, some of these banks, they just exited from doing business with their customers, but they're allowing other companies to jump in and do it. And eventually, these companies, as you have seen, I mean, yeah, some of them start out as remittance companies, but they evolve and they transition because they are meeting the needs to customers that banks are not fulfilling. So at the end of the day, then all the banks start talking about all these neobanks and these new fintechs and the risk that this poses to our business model. Well, yeah, but you are exiting some of this. You're forgetting about what customers need, and I think that's been the how these trends come and go, and
the challenge.
It's a challenge.
It is a challenge, but tell me about Uniteller. I mean, it's obviously, we all know about it. Some people, when I talk to them, think it's a remittance company, which I know it isn't. So we'd love to hear from you. What is Uniteller? How have you transformed it? And more importantly, what do you see over the next 3 to 5 years as you build it out?
Yeah, I mean, Uniteller we're mainly an aggregator. That's our main business line. And we basically, I don't necessarily like the word aggregator because I think it oversimplifies what we're doing, but we're basically connecting companies and individuals that have the need to send money with companies and individuals that receive it. So for us is how do we simplify the processing of the funds and information behind these transactions. One of the good things is that we're fully licensed in the US. So that allows us not only to look at MTOs and connect MTOs, but also to build solutions for other type of corporations or fintechs that are not licensed. So rather than us building solutions, which we have because of our legacy business as a remittance company, but rather than developing a large agent network, what we provide and build these solutions for MTOs, banks, financial institutions, fintechs, telcos, or corporations, whatever type of corporation that wants to enter the space and wants a tailored solution with whether it's only a paying network, that's the basic, the most simple approach, or whether they need a front end for their consumer, for their stores, or just an API. And within all this is how we basically envision is how are we multi-channel, and how do we best meet the needs of our corporate partners and clients in the sending side, and to fulfill that, well, we need a paying network, and we need to offer the services, as you said, building this relationship with the payers and understanding also what they're looking for. Do you want a better presence in the origination country, or do you just want to have a single connection, single API to connect everyone in the industry? So basically, we go to the payers, we build this relationship with the payers, and explore with them, some strategic opportunities other than just connecting companies. So at the end of the day, it's connecting partners, both ends, and offering them value-added services, convincing them, talking to their compliance groups, the risk groups, the effort and the work that we do in the aggregation of transactions, what we do from a compliance perspective so that they feel comfortable in working with us and see the value of working with us in aggregating volume from multiple partners. So at the end of the day, that's the vision. And I think we've been successful so far in implementing that vision. The industry is so huge, and the opportunities are so large that we still got a lot of work to do. I mean, if you ask me, where are we heading? I think we still got to do a better job in making the company more global. I mean, yes, we're paying now in 70 countries around the world. But right now, most of our origination is coming from North America. So we are in the process of getting a better, getting more partners and getting a better presence with European companies, with Asian-based companies, and better develop other opportunities and other corridors. And that's where we're heading.
Yeah, so I mean, I must admit, I also wrongly thought that you were pretty much Mexico or Latin America focused. I didn't appreciate that the network had expanded to 70, I think you said, or plus countries. And that's great, sort of having pipes. And this is, I guess this is cash, this is bank accounts, probably wallets, all the sort of various methods that you could offer.
Yeah, and we when we open a corridor, we try to understand that corridor. What are the best options? Either if it's a wallet or bank accounts or cash, and we try to better build that solution for our originating partners.
Right. So, Alberto, there's a lot of stakeholders there that you're managing. You've got partners, you've got a lot of internal, obviously within a bank. I'm curious as to, how would you define your leadership style? How do you manage all these stakeholders, but also, nowadays, as you said, transition to fintech, that's a very different young sort of team that we all have to deal with. Their way of thinking is very different to certainly old people like myself. I won't call you old, but managing those styles. I mean, how do you motivate them? I'm curious. Tell me a little bit about your leadership style.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think very strategic, and I tend to be visionary. And as I was telling you earlier, is what is the vision? Where do we want to go? And based on that, talk to the team, and either my colleagues at Uniteller or at the group, and say, this is where I believe that we should be going, and convince them of that vision. I think that's the number one. It's very hard to build a team if you don't convince them of where you're going. The second thing I think for me is building a team. And for me, I like football, soccer, as they call it here in the US, but I like football. And you can have the best players, but if you don't really build a team, you're not going to play well. And for me, that team building is very important. So when we interview someone, especially once we get into a certain level, for me, it's impossible to interview everyone, but I personally interview people from certain levels up, because for me, it's important to understand, yes, you have the expertise, you have the knowledge, but can you become a team member? And trying to read and understand people, what is your vision? How do you see? And in that interview, try to get a better feeling if the vision that we have is gonna be shared with the vision and the attitudes that our team members have. And I think that's very important. Because of that, I'm fully convinced of the importance of transparency and communication. And this also translates to our business partners. I think we were here in the US one of the, if not the first aggregator that had a very transparent business model. There used to be aggregators here in the US where they would tell payers, just give me a price and I'll handle everything for you. And they wouldn't tell the payer where the volume was coming from, how much they were charging the MTLs for that volume. So for me, it was amazing when we entered the space. It's like when we were talking to the payers, is how would you let this company run and manage your business? And for me, it's like, no, we're here, we're in this together. We're gonna let you know where are the transactions coming from, and very basic, simple business ideas that now I think is a norm in the industry, but back then when we started, it was not. So for me, it's transparency, building long-term relationships with our payers and with our business partners, and with our team members. So yeah, I'm strict. I'm really tough with my team. I'm kind of perfectionist when it needs to be. I'm always, whenever they send me something or whenever we're preparing a presentation for someone, I always look at it and say, no, you have to put in the shoes of who you're presenting to. So what is the message that we want to deliver? Why is this light here? You don't want to tell them that. This is of no value to them. So I'm very perfectionist when I get a presentation. If you put a number in a presentation, it's because you know what that number is. If you put a bullet, it's because you can tell me what that bullet is. So sometimes I get presentations, I'm like, start questioning, say, what's that number? And people say, so don't put numbers that you don't understand. So exactly. I can be a perfectionist. I tell my people that I'm not, I'm just logical, but they can say that I'm perfectionist, but with a lot of communication, because at the end of the day, it's about communicating, selling an idea, and taking everyone to where we need to be. I think that's the way I would describe how it works. I mean, We do believe we have a great team. I could say that we have the best team in the industry, but I don't want to go that far. But I think that I have the best team that I can have. Most of my direct reports have been working with us for more than 10 years. And if they continue to believe in the vision and continue to work with us, and I think we have a very good atmosphere at the company, I think that's very positive to take you to whatever we want to be.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think nowadays it's also, as I said, your stakeholders are so diverse, in terms of talking to the best IT team versus talking to a traditional banker. You have to really adjust yourself. And to your point, if you have a common vision, then I guess people they sort of rally behind it, and that always helps. But Alberto, I was also sort of thinking, we both share a lot of similarities in the sense we're both immigrants. I grew up in India, came to the UK, became home, spent a lot of time in remittances. You obviously, as you said, from Mexico. I mean, obviously, we're very privileged in terms of, the migrants when you look at our average customer base. But I always found that gave me a bit of empathy, even though I have to admit a lot of the time, you forget that there are real people behind the transactions and you look at spreadsheets and numbers and so on. But what's been your experience in terms of, have you found that your background has really helped you connect with the customers and that really helps you do what you do every day?
Definitely. I mean, and yes, I agree with you. I mean, probably we are in a privileged position, but having the empathy and understanding our customer base is critical and important. I use our services. I use the services of the companies that we served, and try to understand, what at least myself, what do I need from a customer perspective when I need to send a transaction in support of a family member that I do on a regular basis. So yeah, that is very important. Also, I mean, now with COVID, it has been a little bit difficult, but I like to travel, and I like to, but to meet with people, to go to the locations, to talk to the people that are sending money, talk to the agents, talk to the people that receive their customers. What are the concerns? What are they looking for? What they don't like? Talking to the business partners, going out and talking to the beneficiaries that are in the line waiting to collect a remittance. Why wouldn't they open a bank account? Understand, sometimes it's like, let's build this wallet for the people but they don't want a wallet.
Right.
You need to understand, why are they willing to sacrifice and making a 2-hour line to collect the cash? And what do we need to do as a financial institution, rather than just thinking, oh, they need this product? No, they don't need a product. We need to understand, what are they looking for? Why? And it's more complex than just building a wallet, than just building a product. Is in our case, is more complex than that. So yeah, I like to do a lot of that. Building that empathy, talking to people, talking to the taxi drivers, talking to the waiters at the hotels, at the restaurants, asking, how do you send money? And then it becomes very, very positive and rewarding when they tell you, oh, I know about your company, oh, I know about the product that you launched in Mexico, or things like that. Is like very rewarding. And I think, that's I think one of the things that keep us interested and engaged in the industry, is knowing that we're helping people satisfy a very basic need, which is supporting their families.
Yeah, it's funny you say about talking cab drivers and restaurants. I mean, I left running a remittance company a while ago, but that habit just doesn't go away. As soon as you get to a restaurant, where are you from? How do you do it? But it's also interesting you make the point. I think in our drive now for fintech revolution, I mean, we seem to want to second guess what the migrant or the consumer wants. And like you, I come across so many solutions that are looking for a problem that doesn't really exist, but it's like, we want to make it faster, but it's instant already. How much faster are you going to make it, right? So we seem to be forgetting the consumer. And as you say, you know, talking to them and understanding, because they'll tell you, right? I mean, within 2 minutes, they'll tell you what is good about this service, what is bad about this service, what works, what doesn't work. And I'm sure you find the same thing when you go to the markets.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And you need to go out and understand your customers. And sometimes, you know, you see companies investing a lot of money in doing market research and just looking at a study. It's
right.
like, have you been out? Have you going into these places and make the lines? Who did they interview for this survey? I mean, it's like, go out and see and understand what customers need.
And as you said, I mean, you touched on it. COVID has, you know, been quite an event for the last couple of years. And I mean, how has that affected your business also internally, but then going out and traveling, you know, meeting people? Has it had a real issue? Have you adjusted to it?
Yeah, I mean, we were very fortunate. I mean, you can never say that something is fortunate when you talk about COVID, because there's always a lot of things going on and a lot of people have suffered. But from a business perspective, we were fortunate that we were ready from, let's say, a platform, a communication tools perspective, because we already had, in Uniteller, we used Microsoft Teams. So we already had Teams. We're actually underusing Teams. We rarely would set up conferences in Teams. So when COVID hit, you know, it was funny because people start asking, is like, oh, why don't we get a subscription to this service or to that service? And we're like, what do you mean? We already have Teams. So why don't you just get everyone on Teams and actually use Teams as a tool? So one of the things that we did, it was immediately after the lockdowns started in mid-March. Basically, what we did is we had a weekly call with managers, and we changed that to daily. We had daily calls at 8 a.m. and with most of them middle managers all the way up. Basically, half an hour, just important things that are happening, going on that basically you need to tell the group, or if you need to schedule something or you need to bring something up, that's the forum to do that. So eventually, at first, we were very lucky not lucky, but fortunate to have this tool in place. And from that perspective, we even joked that we were communicating more frequently with the lockdowns than without them. So I think that became very, very good. With time, these calls became more of a, now we're doing them every other day. So we do them three times a week. But I think that's also have proved to be a very successful from our end. With our business partners, it's a little bit more difficult. Yes, everyone is into this type of video conferences, and I just believe it's inefficient, but it's the best alternative that we can have. So we have to use them. You know, coordinating schedules is hard, it's inefficient in terms of you now look at your day in block of hours. And so, but at the end of the day, it's a better alternative. And I also believe that it has forced companies to be more focused into how you devote your time, and in that perspective, that has helped us to be more focused and do good priorities into the opportunities that we believe are more important. And on the other perspective, the market, at least from the US, didn't suffer much because of all the government benefits, subsidies, and the lockdowns were not as strict as they were in Europe or in Asia. So from that perspective, the industry in the US fared better than what we had expected. Initially, you know, we all got scared when we started hearing all these analysis that remittances were going to be down 20% and whatnot. And we're like, no, we're not seeing that. And at least not here in the US. I mean, yes, I do understand that other corridors, were really, really affected. And I mean, we do a lot of business to the Philippines, and in particular, all the business relationships that were related, let's say, to the ports and the cruise industry, all of that got affected a lot. But overall, we saw how other sectors like health sector, which is also big from the US to the Philippines, how that came bigger. So at the end of the day, it's a balance, and I think we have a very good year. Again, from a business perspective, from the personal perspective, a lot of challenges and things that we have to deal with.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's probably brought a lot of focus, but again, I think we would all love to get back to doing this more in person, right? Which hopefully we will very soon. Alberto, want to sort of shift gears, and it's difficult to have a conversation without talking crypto at the moment. So, obviously in your backyard, MoneyGram was working with Ripple. They stopped it because of the SEC case. But now, there's a lot of talk about central bank digital currencies, in terms of liquidity and so on. I mean, what are your thoughts about, do you think it's a reality? Do you think we start to see stable coins being used? Is Banorte working on something? I mean, just love to get your general perspective on that. Yeah,
I mean, my position to crypto is you have to see, I think when we talk about crypto and blockchain to that end is, what are we trying to solve? And are we talking about us as a company to improve our liquidity, to improve the settlement, or are we talking about the consumer? And I always make that distinction. And from the first part is, and you said it earlier, is like, we already have real-time payments. They are encrypted. So we don't need a solution that, I mean, yes, you can always take advantage whenever a new platform makes your integrations easier. I mean, yeah, we can all take on that, but are you adding a cost, or are you taking away the one-to-one relationship and the flexibility of that one-to-one relationship, because you're not adding value in terms of my real-time connectivity. From a settlement perspective, yes, I think, we could explore, and we have been exploring opportunities, especially in corridors where settlement is difficult for us because we either don't have volume, or because we don't have a local relationship, or we're just especially because of the volume, it's not efficient just to send a bulk transaction or have a large pre-funded amount to cover that corridor. So those are the cases where I think could merit a discussion on that end. For us to do settlement, if crypto is going to help us doing settlement in our large corridors, in Philippines, Mexico, no, I don't see that.
Right.
And I mean, honestly, I don't see that. We've been analyzing and studying it, because obviously we don't want to miss an opportunity if there is one. But so far, I don't see that. From a consumer perspective, in my opinion, you have two types of consumers. You have the consumers that, yeah, they look at crypto as an opportunity to invest, and the consumers that look at crypto as an opportunity to receive money. The first ones, I think they are out of our scope, at least for now. I mean, yeah. And there are already multiple companies doing that and doing that very well. And to the second point is consumers. I just don't see consumers in most of the countries that we operate wanting to receive crypto to collect a remittance, because then what are they going to do with that? Are they, how they're going to convert, and what are the conversion costs of those crypto into real cash for them to use? Unless you are in a country which we don't currently do, like, well, I'm not going to name countries, but countries where currency conversion or inflations are it's such a concern for consumers. Yeah, I mean, I can understand consumers preferring to take a crypto alternative, but for us, it's more of a, I think we are better off providing you a solution to a wallet, and that local wallet will take care of that Bitcoin or crypto conversion for you if you want that, and keep whatever cash you want. But I don't see us doing that on the recipient countries. So that has been our approach. And I mean, obviously we are analyzing, we're studying, we participating, at least listening into these conferences and trying to understand if there's something that we're missing. Right. But the more that I hear, the more we understand. That's the way I summarize. I may be wrong, but
no, I think there's no right or wrong at the moment, because as you say, it's evolving. I certainly share your views on the consumer side. I think I don't really see much of a proposition there, but I think on the settlement side, again, subject to regulation, because, for the first time, it gives us an opportunity to sort of transfer value and information at the same time, which in itself, in theory, could free up all of these millions and trillions of dollars locked up in liquidity. But then you need to create liquidity on the receive side and usage, because you can't spend crypto, as you say. You still need fiat, right? And so yeah, we've got a long way to go. It'll be an interesting how it progresses.
And that's the way I see it. As I was saying, how can it help us to do our settlement more efficient?
Yeah.
And especially in certain corridors where, because of our footprint, because of our volumes, we're not efficient. So that's where I see the opportunity. Yeah. I fully agree with you.
Makes sense. Alberto, I know you and I can carry on for hours, but I want to ask one more thing before we bring it to a close, which is, great journey. Sounds like, although you've achieved a lot, but you're not there yet with Uniteller. So where do you see, your journey? Is it still carry on executing on your vision on Uniteller, or is it go do something else with Banorte or something else? What is the next sort of 3 years hold for Alberto?
You're putting me on the spot, my employee.
Nobody's listening, just you and me talking, Alberto.
No, I mean, as we have said, I mean, for me, it's an interesting journey. We still believe we have a lot of things to do and achieve. And for me, and as long as the group continues to have that trust, which, by the way, has been fantastic over the years, I mean, I'm very grateful to the group for everything that has allowed me, and we have managed to build together. I mean, as I said, I do believe that there's still a lot of things that we need to do. But I also, I'm really aware that I'm just another employee. And, and one day visions can change, decisions can change. And for me, I do see a lot of opportunities in this space, and I'm always, analyzing, studying opportunities. Hopefully I can do them here in Uniteller, but if for whatever reason that's not a possibility, definitely I want to continue in this space. I do see, as I said, a lot of future. We just talked briefly about crypto and, blockchains also as technologies, real-time payments, wallets, so many things that are evolving and will continue to shape the industry. So I continue to study a lot and try to understand, and things that we can either implement, or if I have to implement them in another place, be ready to do that. So yeah.
Right. No, I agree with you. And look, Alberto, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. As I said, you and I could talk for another couple of hours, but I know you have a real job to do. I'm okay to carry on, but so I don't want to take up more of your time. But really, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and vision with us. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you, Mohit. It's been really a pleasure, and yeah, glad to. Hopefully, we can meet soon in person and continue the conversation. It's